It's time for the Volume 25 extravaganza of What the F is that doing in the junkyard? And we've got a good one for you because we got 11 cars this time. I think this is our record. We've never had this many cars in one video, so it's action-packed. Watch the whole thing. So this time we got a 1962 Studebaker Lark, a 1967 Cadillac Coupe DeVille, a 1954 Dodge Coronet, a 1960 Ford Falcon, a 1976 Chrysler New Yorker, a 1973 Opel GT, a 1970 Buick Electra 225, the deuce and a quarter, a 1967 Chrysler Newport, a 1960 Chevy C10, a 1953 Cadillac Sedan, and a 1967 Chevy C10. Let's go to the yard. Okay, we got a lot of cars for you this time on WTF is that doing in the junkyard. We're going to start off with a weird one. I don't think we've ever had a Studebaker on here, but here's a 62 Lark. Motor's complete, carburetor's there, air cleaner's there. And this one, yeah, it should be here. It's not something someone's going to restore. These aren't exactly high-dollar cars. Lots of good stuff on this one. There's a biohazard warning on the driver's door, so I wasn't going to go inside because I don't know what was going on there. Plus, we found some, bullets all over it. So who knows if someone died in this car. It looked like it caught on fire at one point. And definitely got a creepy vibe going on this car. I'm guessing that's probably why I got sent to the junkyard. Fortunately, it wasn't out here in time for Halloween because that would have made it really, really extra creepy. But yeah, someone might have died in there, so that means I'm not going in there, if you know what I mean. Still, lots of good parts to be had for somebody who's redoing one of these pretty cool 60s Studebakers. Man, I love my Cadillacs. I still have my 56, but here's a 67 Coupe DeVille, and this one is straight, it is rust-free, and I don't really think it should have been here. I mean, this isn't a high-dollar car, but it is one that would be popular. Some rockabilly kid could have probably got a hold of this, primered it and just slammed it and drove it, because it would have been a fortune to restore this car properly, but this one is mostly there. This one is very straight. And, even the bumpers are there. It looks like the trunk lock, somebody already pulled it off. Who knows if it was done by the junkyard. Had the 429 in it. Looks like years ago somebody yanked the carburetor off. They stuck a rag over the intake. So that's probably, I'm guessing, why it was parked, was the carburetor. Maybe someone gave up on it. Still, interesting to see. All right, how about a 50s Mopar? These actually, of the 50s cars, I think the early 50s Mopar is the ones I see popping up most still in these yards. And this one, yeah, this one was done. It's a 54 Dodge Coronet. The 6-cylinder was all apart. Looks like somebody had all the pieces for it. Maybe they were going to restore it. Looks like the dash was complete, including the original AM radio. But these aren't high-dollar cars. These are great hobbyist cars. You can find a complete one that's like original with patina because you can still get the parts for them. They're not that expensive. It's a great first classic car for somebody. But unfortunately, this one was too far gone. So it's really understandable why this one popped up at the wrecking yard. Still, it's unusual. It's not your usual 80s, 90s Toyota you see popping up out here. All right, I like my Falcons. I've owned a few early 60s Falcons, including a couple Rancheros. And here's a 62 Falcon. It's got the 144 straight 6 in it. Looks like it had an aftermarket air cleaner, but the original Holley carb. Everything spray painted blue, of course. Somebody just grabbed the windshield out of it just to get the trim off the windshield for their Falcon. They'd just been here. The instrument cluster was still there. The original AM radio was still there. Now, this one wasn't too bad. I don't know why the gas tank's sitting in the back seat. It might have been someone's project, but these cars are very simple, usually very easy to get back on the road. So, yeah, it probably would have been a good car. This is another car. These are great for a first-timer getting into classic cars, these Falcons, and they do still pop up. In fact, I think the most common cars of the 1960s that I see popping up at these self-service yards are these Falcons and also Corvairs. They're the most common 60s cars. Now moving on, we found a Malaise classic. This one's a 76 Chrysler New Yorker, and it was already missing the engine. I'm guessing it had the giant 440 in it. Now what happens a lot are these guys find these cars with the 440. They yank the 440 out for another Mopar, and then they just junk the rest of the car. So I'm guessing that's what happened with this one. Since it's a 76, it's a smog gear. So it's probably one of the reasons why it's here, because fortunately in California, as I've discussed before, 76 and later, you got to smog it, so people are just afraid of them. But and these cars aren't really at the point where they're worth doing a restoration. You either have a nice one or you don't. This one's not particularly nice, but it's still an unusual classic to see still. This one had the pillow top upholstery, which is very indicative of the Malaise era. And it's a giant land barge, but here it is. This one wasn't even on the website. I couldn't figure out what year it was. It's actually, I'm guessing it's a 69 to 71 Beetle. This one's not a Super Beetle. This one had the older style suspension, didn't have the McPherson struts of the Super Beetle. So people actually prefer the non-Super Beetle because there's more you can do with them. And I think they had problems with the Super Beetle suspensions. This one was pretty complete, had no rust. I mean, had some body damage, but nothing terrible. At the worst, this could have been used to build a kit car on or made into like a Baja Bug. And it's pretty complete. Now, look at this engine. It's untouched. It's got cobwebs all over it. It looks creepy, like it's from Halloween or something. But somebody would have taken this car. If this was advertised, it would have been snapped up, and someone would have definitely done something with this Beetle because everything's available for them. And let's face it, it's probably the most popular collector car out there. I mean, they built, over 50 million of these cars worldwide, and just obviously they continue to be extremely popular. Really sad to see this one winding up here. And here's the poor man's Corvette. This is a 1973 Opel GT. These were sold by Buick dealers. Opel was GM of Germany. And this one had the original, I think it's a 4-cylinder engine, and it was pretty complete. This yard's kind of odd because they keep getting a lot of Opels. So I'm guessing somebody's Opel collection, maybe some guy died who collected Opels, and they sent all his cars to this yard because it seems like every time they do a classic line at this yard, there's usually at least 1 or 2 Opels. This one, very rust-free, very complete. Some Opel guy definitely would have done something with it, but it's here, and people are probably going to be able to pull a lot of good parts off of it. It even had like some period correct aluminum wheels on it. This one was very baked in the sun. All the rubber was completely gone, but all the metal bits were all there and in good shape for anyone that was going to restore one of these funky 70s German GM cars. Speaking of Buicks, they had this 1970 Buick Electra 225 pseudo lowrider, as you'll see in a second. Looks like it had the original 455 engine with an aftermarket air cleaner on it. It was all there. And it had the radiator still in it. Front bumper's still there. And this one's interesting because it actually had a set of Daytons on it. So it had the Killer D's. Fortunately, they're all pitted, so they're probably not usable. I'm sure it would cost a fortune to get those redone. And the roof had the unfortunately, it had the vinyl top, which led to the demise of this car because extremely rusty and led to what I would call this car being totaled out because there's no fixing that roof. Still had all the Electra 225 badging on it. I mean, other than the roof, this car had a really nice body on it. So, I mean, it's really sad because that roof really is what killed this car. And unfortunately, that killed a lot of cars from the late 60s and into the 70s, the vinyl top era, if you will. Looking at the dash, I mean, this car had looks like 108,000 miles, which looks about accurate if you look at the car, and it had a bunch of happy trees. So you know this thing must have had an awful stench in here at one time. Who knows what was going on in this car to make it have such an awful stench, but it did. And I mean, just looking at this thing, you know, it's definitely something that should be here, but something that's probably going to give a lot of good parts to another Buick. This is actually why I came out here. This is a 1967 Chrysler Newport, and the motor was actually in there when I got here, but some guys were pulling it out at a 383. I came out here to get the rear end, but the way they positioned the car and instead of putting jack stands on the frame, they just stuck one on the gas tank, and the rear end was too low to the ground for me to pull it, and I couldn't get the Junkyard to do anything about it because it was in the middle of the line. So long story short, I spent about 2 hours trying to pull that rear end just to come up empty-handed. But this car probably shouldn't have been here. It was very rust-free. Yeah, it's a four-door, but this again would make a great first collector car for somebody. Somebody was into Mopars, wanted a big block Mopar. Obviously, it's a giant car, so it's not a performance car. But it looked like it was straight. It was all there. All the trim was there. The dash was in really great condition. In fact, the guy grabbed the steering wheel while I was here. And here's one that definitely should not be in the junkyard. I don't know why these keep popping up in decent condition. This is a 1960 Chevy C10. It's got the small block in it. This one's got the dual snorkel hood. Someone already grabbed the grills off the hood and grabbed the grill off the front. But look at the body on this thing. It is rust-free. Yeah, it's a long bed, but they reproduce everything for this truck. And this one, I mean, I'm sure the guys back east who are looking for these are just going to cry at how rust-free this is. Yeah, it's a small window. It doesn't have the more desirable big window, but this could have been a really neat truck, or even just left in this amazing patina. Somebody really screwed up sending this one to the wrecking yard, if you ask me. Had the little pad on the bumper for climbing up into the bed. I'm not sure if the tailgate was on it, but you can get those. I mean, they reproduce. This is a catalog car. They reproduce just about everything for this. So they're very easy to restore, like a Tri-5 Chevy or like a mid-60s Mustang. A lot of parts availability on this truck, and I mean, it's a desirable truck and something that would have gotten saved, in my opinion, especially since it's straight, rust-free, and for some reason has a Pontiac badge on the door, mounted sideways. I don't understand that, but there it is. Yeah, this one's definitely sad to see. Okay, here's one that's obvious why it's here. It was rolled over, but this is a 1953 Cadillac Sedan, and a lot of good stuff, a lot of good trim. Still had the motor in it. Still had the front bumper with the Dagmars. Fender was busted in. Original paint faded to hell. Autronic eye. Now these would actually dim the headlights when someone was, so if you had your high beams on and you were on a dark road somewhere, when another car was coming the other way, it would automatically dim the headlights. And you see those a lot of like 50s and early 60s Cadillacs. This one looks like it was rolled and then maybe hauled off somewhere and then left to sit for many years, because that's old damage if you ask me. And of course, the iconic Cadillac tail fins. Now check this out. The bumper was actually okay. It wasn't perfect. There were some extra pieces in the trunk. Looks like extra carburetor and such. And it might have been someone's parts car. Usually when you have someone who has a wrecked one of these, they generally had more than one of these cars. And this might have been like one they were keeping around in case they needed a few pieces off of. Maybe they died and the family either donated it or just called pick apart. I don't know if on these years if that pops open for the gas filler, but I know on the later ones it did. On my dad's 55 Coupe DeVille, you would push in that reflector and it would pop up and you could fill the gas tank up on it. Something that would have been saved, oh God no, but it's just still, you don't see a lot of 53 Cadillacs these days, especially not at a self-service yard. I mean, even the dash was bent on this thing from whatever accident it was in. But still, there it is, opulence. And this one, these guys, I'm just showing you, this truck was, all these vehicles were actually set out here this morning that are in this video, the morning that I filmed it. This is a 1967 Chevy C10, so it's the first year of this body style. And yeah, it's a long bed, but these C10s are the hottest thing right now, so it's really amazing to see one of these winding up in the wrecking yard. And it's had the original straight six in it, but no rust. Now, this truck, honestly, you put this thing on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or OfferUp for, I don't know, 1,000 or 1,500 bucks, and it would have been gone in a hot second. So whoever sent this one to the wrecking yard, you really screwed up, because this truck was so restorable and should not have been here. Congratulations, you made it through all 11 cars. I figured since I didn't do a video last week, I'd make this one a little extra special, if you know what I mean. So be sure to like, subscribe, go to my playlist, What the F Is That Doing in the Junkyard? You can watch all my old Junkyard videos that you missed. Comment as to what your favorite car was in the video, and until next time, I'll be seeing you.